Let's go.
I love Jamie's energy coming in there. Hello and welcome to the CREEDCAST. Jamie's ready. He's off season. He looks like chill and relaxed and happy, which is great. We're in the off season. This is an off season episode, which we're just like we don't even know what to call it, but we're going to go with off season files at the CREEDCAST. It's basically all the news fit to print that we just haven't got to yet, really, in this episode, recording here on Wednesday, the 19th of November. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. As always, we obviously have had a lot of news with the Port Adelaide side in both men's and women's over the past couple of weeks. We've focused on the women in the last few weeks to make sure we can wrap up their season whenever it was going to finish, and unfortunately did finish in the minor round. Wrap them up, did a season review last week. Go back and listen to that if you haven't already. Really enjoyed looking back on the season that was and what was such an intriguing season that was a little bit disappointing as far as no finals, but sets us up very, very well going forward. And Jamie, good evening to you. I think it's a perfect place to start before we get into some of the men's side stuff. The B&F was the other night, and I tweeted out that I watched the whole thing, and it was a real sense of like a tangible, not like I think I tweeted that it didn't feel like there's certain things that get said in AFL world that just sound like lip service. But listening to the girls the other night and various different interviews that happened throughout the B&F for the AFLW side, and of course, congratulations to Matilda Scholes for winning. Pretty expected, I think, but congratulations nonetheless. An incredible season. There's a tangible belief that there's something special in this group. They really love each other. There was like so much love going around the room, and the real belief that they're building something is quite tangible and really, really exciting, coming off the back of a very exciting finish to the season.
Good evening and hello to everyone joining us. Thanks for joining us. Very exciting for the AFLW side. I agree with you. While I missed out on the live stream on the night, I've watched 90% of the speeches and interviews from the night. And obviously the one constant theme throughout the night was how much all the players appreciate our sponsors. To go along with what you just said, they do believe clearly, and as you also said, you tend to hear those types of things a lot in the football world or team sport, especially when it comes to awards nights and things like that. The people who less enjoy public speaking tend to parrot other things that other people have said, but the people who did speak, like you mentioned, that it did seem like a genuine feeling and a genuine opinion throughout the playing group, and then the senior figures who spoke as well, that maybe similar to a sentiment that you laid out when we reviewed the season, or maybe it was a GWS review, where like while this season from a binary sense can feel like a step back, there was a lot of development and evolution below the surface, and you said, in the moment, you're probably like, oh, why don't you play this way? But then in the end, perhaps we're happy that they stuck to their guns because what it may do for our fortunes moving forward. So I guess it's palpable from the outside, and clearly that's driven by what's going on the inside. So yeah, it was, I guess it gets you pretty excited for the next year already, which we've already said. Just knowing how keen they are, but also I think we'll be going into season 2026 with a bit of quiet confidence on how we could fortune across the season as a whole, let alone, bouncing back into finals and whatnot. It does seem like, even going back to Loz Arnell's press conference after the season had concluded, just a real, not a bravado, and I don't really know what synonym to use in a feminine sense, but you obviously, and listeners will understand where I'm coming from, it does seem like that confidence is brewing, and that all comes with the work that they've predominantly done over the last 4 years, but more particularly this year altogether.
Mm. Yeah, I thought there was a right from the start. I think Jasmine Sowden had a real good dry kind of sense of humor in her speech. I assume you watched that one, being that you've gone back and caught it after. I thought that was great. And it sounds like the
only one I missed was Ella Bogue. Sorry to jump in. I'm pretty sure that's the only one I missed. Ella Bogue.
and hers was great as well. She was quite,
Mm,
I think, surprised at winning the best
yeah,
team play, like players player award, and I think that kind of spoke
I
to that.
was.
Yeah. I think that spoke to kind of probably the connection she has with the group and everyone, and also her humility in that she kind of saw others as maybe more deserving, but she's her peers have chosen her, and that's really really wonderful. And she kind of spoke really really well about how she feels about the group and how special she feels it's building. And everyone was quite well spoken. Even Jasmine Sowden, who's kind of like quite young, only 18, still up there, a little bit of dry humor. Kind of like I'm shocked. This is crazy, but she spoke pretty well considering it was probably completely unprepared.
Mm,
And even her as a first year player coming in and not having built with the group over the last few years, she kind of had this like real kind of quiet determination about her and what she feels the future can hold for the club. And then on the other side of things, I found Janelle Cuthbertson's speech incredible. Her, of course, retiring and a former captain, and she spoke for a while, and it was quite raw and emotional at times. Her talking about how shattering it
mm,
was to be finishing up in this way, and how hard it's been to watch from the sidelines and kind of come to that realization that her career was over in this sense as far as a playing career. And you could also tell in between the lines she was speaking how excited she was for the group going forward, and then kind of like she can sense something building, and like she's so excited for the group going forward. So there's a Shakespearean tragedy aspect of it that she's so excited, but she can't be a part of it, and she wants to be. So you could tell
yeah,
there was that feeling in her speech as well. So it was both an incredibly positive speech as far as how she feels about the group and how her time at Port Adelaide, but there was obviously a little bit of tragedy in the fact that she has had such a um, sad finish for her playing days. Obviously, she's got plenty of life to go, and like it'll be a blip once she looks back on things in the future years. But at this moment, it would feel very raw. But I think that there was a strangeness to it for me when I was trying to metabolize how I felt about it, because I was like, she seems it's adding to my excitement for next year, even though I'm sad about her. It's like she can tell that
hmm
this group is special and she wants to be a part of it, and that's ultimately a very exciting thing. Even though on her end it's quite sad as well. Which I don't know if that you got that out of it. I was having a whole range of emotions in that 15 minutes or 10-15 minutes she spoke, because it just felt like such a wide ranging kind of a totality of what her career has been, and as well as where we're going as a club.
Yeah, I'll put my hand up. I also haven't seen that speech either, unfortunately. But I can only imagine
Well, you
what
can tell
you're
I was
speaking of.
conflicted about how to feel about it,
Yeah.
because I was excited and obviously sad for her.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And as a professional athlete, your profession is to strive for success in whatever it is that you're performing. And in her regard, to put in so many hard yards, to know that the environment that you're leaving is on the precipice of something quite amazing, hopefully, touch wood, it would be such a bittersweet feeling to know that you've contributed to some of that, but won't get to kind of experience the fruits of your labor if we were to, yeah, go on the trajectory that I guess we're all kind of expecting. Um, it would be hard. It would be very hard. And obviously, all of our hearts sank, A, when she redid the ACL, but then when the news was confirmed and, she's living it. And hopefully she sticks around and hopefully the football club find a place for her. She's obviously been doing a lot of leadership and coaching while she's been injured.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if that's something that she wants to do. But a bit of a subplot to the men's season in 2024. Like, give me people who give a fuck and
Hmm.
someone that invested with that much experience, and it is a young group, so senior leadership in on field and off field is vital, and that's kind of where my mind lays in regards to JC. Hopefully that there is a way that she can stay involved, and that'd be great if possible. If not, obviously all the best to her. And yeah, she's a Port Adelaide. She'll forever have been a Port Adelaide captain,
Hmm.
and she'll always be part of the family for
Yeah.
sure.
And one, if I remember correctly, her one full game as captain, I think, was obviously the showdown. She got to wear the bars with the number one on the back, which I think is really, really
Bars,
special
yeah.
for her. And if I remember correctly, I'd have to go back and think, but I know if she did not get votes from us, we were very, very pleased with her performance, and I'm pretty sure she might have got votes for us. So she was
She
looking
took
like,
a few marks
yeah,
in a team that
at the
had
time,
soap on their hands. Yeah.
yeah, at the time, it was very much one of our core issues that we were focusing on was like, can this team take more than 20 marks in a game? It feels so far away now, doesn't it? With how we
Yeah,
improved this year.
absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, it was great. The B&F was great. There was a cool energy about it. Obviously, Matilda Scholes winning the B&F and Woodland second, Tahoe third in their votes. Slightly different to ours, but still a lot of similar
Mm.
ones running in the top 10. Um, but Matilda winning was probably pretty obvious. But yeah, it was great. Like Indy and Gemma both getting some recognition for their goal kicking exploits. Sachi Syme getting. I'm blanking on what the name of the award was, but
Most improved.
most improved. That's right. Which I think both of us have talked about a lot across the year, and she spoke.
Hmm.
She spoke about Loz going to her at the end of last year and saying we want to shift you down to defense, and how fucking shit scared she was essentially.
Mm.
And she's grown to love it so
Well,
much
because she
this year.
kind of got shifted partway through last year.
She
She
mentioned
started
it
in
as
the
last
midfield,
year.
yeah, you're talking about that showdown. I think she was our best on ground in the
I
midfield
think,
in
yeah,
that
yeah,
game.
we gave her votes, didn't we? Yeah, and
Mm,
probably
yeah, I
best
think she
on.
got top billing
Hmm.
in our votes after that showdown. So
Yeah, I completely
yeah, to
forgotten about that,
shift
but you're right. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. Life moves fast, but you would be scared. I imagine she's grown up, played a lot of midfield as a junior before getting
Mhm.
drafted, and yeah, you got to pivot sometimes, and obviously a good decision because she's relished the opportunity. She's clearly improved and been awarded as such, and
Mhm.
we've got a pretty stacked midfield, so it'd be very hard for her to kind of crack back in, and she can just further her leadership credentials on marshalling that half-back line, like we commented on a few times this year, in conjunction with those other young guns in that area of the ground too.
And it's good to have people that have midfield skill that can play other areas. Um, not just play them as a fill-in, but play them as a starting position. But they've also got that kind of midfield, a little bit of midfield nous from their experience. So, and it's a tale as old as time. Like good players that are good in one position transitioning to another. I mean, and you have to look at AFL men's history of Chad Corns moving around and being an All-Australian halfback and almost an All-Australian midfielder at times as well. Like he's had time in different places. So yeah,
Yeah,
but it
Connor
was
Rosie for something more
yeah,
recent.
yeah, yeah. I mean, his could potentially be. I mean, well, it remains to be seen how we go this year, but it seems to be lending itself to the fact that he might spend a bit more time down there. From some things that have been said out there,
Yeah.
uh, and we'll start talking about the men's side in a moment. But yeah, I mean, it kind of puts a nice, really, really nice bow on the women's season. They have a great night at the B&F, and shout out to Rebecca Morse who did a great job, kind of leading the events as the MC, cracking some jokes about the men's suits, and somewhat awkwardly at times with a few that didn't quite get what she was doing, but she was kind of do the reverse, not asking women about who they're wearing, asking the men. And
Men.
Daniel Merritt in particular just didn't know how to respond, and she kind of went like, "I'm joking, Daniel. I'm doing a bit here," and he was just like, "Okay."
Psych. Yeah.
I think she ended up with saying, "I'll buy you a beer later. It's okay." So it was good energy, and really really enjoyed watching it. I always love throwing the stream on of whatever our B&F events are, and you end up
Yeah.
spending about
Yeah.
30 minutes at a time listening to a music track as they eat their meals. But, I just, plug away doing some of my things at home while that's
Oh my
happening. So,
God. It's kind of painful also at the same time. It's like,
yeah,
hurry up and eat. Like, I want more speeches.
exactly.
I want that feel good moment.
Yeah, they had a musician at one point who I just wasn't vibing with. But they showed the video of him playing. And I was like, okay, I'm looking forward to this being done. But then they had a DJ later, and she was popping, so I enjoyed that. So it was a bit of back and forth, and no, it was good fun to watch, and it kind of enjoy the ladies who definitely deserve the recognition for a great finish to the season. And as we kind of started with some great excitement going forward as well. It's really, really, really exciting stuff going forward into 2026 for the women. And there's plenty of excitement for the men going into 2026 as well. We've obviously a lot of news over the last week and a half, 2 weeks, whether it be fixture. Obviously preseason has officially started, and particularly for the first 4-year players, and Josh Carr's job is in motion now. But I think that probably the biggest news that's dropped somewhat really in the AFL as well as far as 2026 goes is, of course, the news that the long saga of what Dougie Cochrane's academy status would be going into 2026 has been resolved. And for me, the longer it went, the more anxious I was getting that it wouldn't fall in our favour. So when I saw that news that he had been approved, he's a Port Adelaide NGA product, and that we have the draft rights to him essentially in 2026, I was a little bit shocked. I don't know how about you, but I was. It's one of those things. It's kind of like in soccer when the longer the VAR process takes and the longer the referee takes. When the referee goes
Wash your mouth out.
Yeah, when the referee goes to the monitor, I'm like, oh no, this isn't going to go well. And then so I felt like the longer this was taking, there was like at some point in the AFL house, there was someone at the monitor about Dougie's status. So I was really, really shocked. I don't know about you. Was that your feeling? Because I was starting to get pretty anxious over the last month or two.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Most things in the AFL, the more you're forced to wait, the less fortunate you seem to be. It kind of seemed, from a skeptical point of view, it kind of seemed like they were, potentially in similarity to another case of files that are yet to be released in the US, leaving yourself enough time to kind of redact or make excuses for things not to be approved or revealed or whatnot. Some of that is yet to be seen, of course. But in our regard, back to football, yes, of course, the longer it's seen, because as an interstate club, AFL House is Big Brother, and we always accuse them of Vic bias and whatnot, and only looking after their babies of the competition. But and Port Adelaide, after being hounded to join the VFL/AFL, but then kind of entering the AFL and having a chain on our leg from the SANFL in regards to rent, and then kind of being, left to die a little bit by the AFL. It was a surprise that this got over the line, because we didn't think it was going to happen. Even the most hopeful of people would have had a similar thought process, waiting. And just, hasn't there been a fair amount of commentary about the whole process?
Yeah, it's incredible. We'll talk about probably the more positive sides of it and the Cochrane family in a moment. But since you brought it up, it is incredible the whinging that's going on from other fans who, as soon as West Coast in particular, once there's a fair crop of former champions of that club that if they get the father-son status, they'll be absolutely stoked with. So but the whinging, whether it be why is it us that are copying the whinging? Because the last 3 premierships have been won very, very much with the fact that father-sons have been a core part of it. So, the Collingwood...
Not hearing too much criticism from, Brisbane fans or Collingwood fans, to be honest. But,
Crows fans are probably a bit dirty that some of their father-sons haven't worked out too well yet, but, time to come for a few more. But, none of the Edwards boys or whatever have really turned up, have they? Or,
Well, they just delisted with a promise to rookie, their most recent father-son in Tyler Welsh, but who gives a fuck about them, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
But just another example of what you're saying.
Yeah. We've all, this is there is inequitability in the system, but you're quite cheeky, snarky tweet about it was perfect. It's just like we might as well. This entire system has benefited so many clubs around the country, and we've not really been too much of a beneficiary. Like our father sons, we were able to get Jace Burgoyne at pick 60. He probably would have been a higher pick based on how he's gone since, if people knew that. But we got him at pick 60, and we haven't had too much other trouble with Lockie Jones. We matched a Collingwood bid, I think, at pick 17, and we haven't had one of these ones pop up for us. Not like the Ashcrofts and Nick Dacos went at pick 4, but he would have gone and pick one in a free draft for him. Like Jordan Francis was a pretty highly touted pick at the time too, but there would have been I think Nick Dacos was still seen as the number one pick in a free and open draft. So a lot of clubs have benefited from it. We've watched Brisbane. Brisbane lose in 2023. Will Ashcroft is out with a knee injury. The next 2 years he's winning the Norm Smith. So who knows what a Will Ashcroft in a 5-point game that Collingwood win, and Collingwood win with two father sons of their own on the other side. Where the competition has been, and
Geelong, their period of dominance.
Yeah,
noteworthy father sons in that.
Yeah. I mean, Gary Oliver Jr. is probably the biggest one of all time, and he basically is the cornerstone of their dynasty essentially. And part of it to me, like I love that Stuart Cochrane. Back to I wanted to say on the West Coast, the snarkiness is very, very funny because a lot of them are like, this club that's been rooted to the bottom of the league for years, and yes, it's been 5 or 6 years of hard. They've been hard done by, but in the previous 3 decades, they've won at least one premiership each decade. One of them 2. They've actually had they've been one of the more successful clubs in the competition for the last 30 years. Like they've had 5 years of being shit, which is a house that they've built themselves by being like absolutely just complete mismanagement of their list. Yeah, like trying to hold on to the era that they had that wasn't really there to hold on to. Like they got themselves through for a premiership and what was an incredible grand final, and then not handling the COVID years well, like probably complaining about it a little bit too much rather than accepting the world that it was, and then mismanagement, and they've found themselves in this situation. I don't have much sympathy for I have sympathy for fans going through a hard time like it is, but like as far as the club goes, like you've won 4 premierships in my lifetime. 2 of them I remember watching as an adult. Like you guys have been going okay. You've played in a couple of others and lost them. Like you've had a pretty good run. Dougie Cochrane wasn't going to fix everything for you, and like he's now tied to us.
Well, to extend upon that point, and I've seen someone else make it. So I'm just echoing their point that West Coast fans being upset about this whole situation just speaks of loser mentality and somewhat of an expectation that they'll finish bottom next year. Like, what kind of shit is that to begin with? Like, you shouldn't be an issue because you should be striving for better than last place, and therefore not draft concessions, but access. So there's kind of the first thing that I mentioned. And all of these West Coast people were waxing lyrical, particularly on my tweet, like you mentioned before. And as I mentioned to one person, like who clearly got it, who misinterpreted willfully, I must say, but it wasn't a debate thread. It was a let's laugh at the AFL thread, because that's pretty much exactly where it is. Like you just said, there's other teams that have taken advantage of. It's like the tax system, right? There's a famous Kerry Packer's famous tax inquisition, and he basically said, like, I am smart, or my accountants are smart with the way that they account for my books, to paraphrase. But I pay the exact amount of tax that I am required to do so. Just because you don't like how I do it, that's not my fault. All of these tax concessions or et cetera, are available to every other citizen in Australia, and I'm no different. And that's where to bring it back to the AFL. The AFL make the rules, and it's up to the clubs to take advantage of the rules of the day. And as an extension of that point, if you don't ask for something, you won't get it. And the club has simply gone, this kid who has also been linked with the club, trained with the club. Like it's not like he hasn't been associated with the club. Family ties put
Yeah,
aside.
it's not like
For all intents and purposes,
it's not like Adam Banks
yeah,
going from the Hawks to the Ducks because he got like the like Gordon Bombay found out to read the districting
shunted.
zones and yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Adam
yeah,
Banks is a hawk.
yeah,
Like, yeah.
rough. Mm. Yeah, exactly.
Hey,
You
he wouldn't
know,
have been a
like
Goodwill
this
Games
isn't.
champion if he hadn't made that move. So,
Come on, come on, Coach Bombay. Um, but yeah. So for all intents and purposes, he has been involved in our father-son or NGA program, training with the club, rehabbing at the club, all of the things that you would afford yourself. So,
mm,
um, but to bring it back to the point I was making, it's up to the clubs themselves. All clubs, even West Coast. I obviously looked it up with all this hoo-ha about it, and West Coast have NGA products, but it's a bit of, well, if it's up to you to develop them as well.
mm,
And sure, Dougie Cochran may be just a blue chip talent who's just oozing with it and born with that talent. But it's also up to the clubs to develop your NGA or your father sons to be in a position where they are touted as a top draft pick. And therefore, if the AFL is going to set some parameters that you can utilize to improve your club, it's on you. Like it's not
mm,
on Port Adelaide to make sure that West Coast are looked after. It's up to Port Adelaide to make sure that Port Adelaide's interests are looked after first and foremost. And for the first time in our AFL history, we have got to a point where we have some pretty good draft crops coming up in regards to father son and NGA
mm,
because we've put the work in. Their families themselves have obviously put in a lot of work, the individuals that is. But the club has done a mountain of work to get us in this position. And if it's within the rules, it's within the rules. If the AFL signs it up, it's like when we're pick swapping, when we traded out first round draft picks, we didn't just force it upon the competition to get a permit. We didn't give ourselves a permit, is what I should be saying. The
mm.
AFL approved these things. Again, if you don't ask, you don't get. And we've put in the work. Stewie Cochrane, to his credit, and the family have put in a lot of work, and it seems like for a long time. Um, and it seemed like that was going to be the obvious sticking point, and the AFL maybe were holding out until they could get that Indigenous heritage certification.
Mm.
Is the system good? Is the system equitable at large? Could it be improved? Absolutely.
Mm.
But again, you have to take advantage. In a competition so even, it's on you, the club, to find any edge you can. And if it's within the rules, it's within the rules. I have no sympathy for any other person who has a problem with it. Um, the NGA Academy, I do believe, is for, and this is the whole thing that Michelangelo Rucci is banging on about on the radio because he's not too impressed with it, while happy to receive the player in the end. It was obviously brought in to encourage, say, members of the AP Wildlands, for example, who don't have access to, suburban luxuries and whatnot to gain access to it. And I get all of that. And it's something that Port Adelaide does do very well is engage with those communities, and
Yeah, they're up there, right?
they
They're
would
up
be
there right
working
now.
on,
Saatchi
and they
and
would be working
Emma and a
on,
few others are
yes,
up
they
there
are, yeah,
2 nights after their
in
best and
Uluru,
fairest.
yeah,
Burgoyne's up
yeah,
there as well, obviously.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the club would be working on future NGA like Indigenous prospects
Mm.
because we've got a pretty good list management team and recruitment team as well as a point, and it's just what you do. This one just happens to put a bad taste in the mouths of opposition supporters who I give little fucks to.
Hmm.
Just before I hand back over to you, sorry, I've prattled on for a little bit, but and something that I guess
I
you can
love it when you
comment on
prattle
too, but.
because it's usually with
Yeah,
with
thank you.
you
Thank
prattle with
you.
purpose and it's always good.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you for saying that, and I hope everyone listening and whatnot feels the same way. I guess that's why you're here. Uh, but as an extension of that point, I was saying to a person at work that I think administrative tenure should also count towards father son, and therefore I think Tommy Cochrane and Dougie Cochrane should be father son prospects.
Mm.
I get that, they've set a 100-game parameter, which was more for the interstate teams going back a ways. It was like 200 games, but
Yeah,
thankfully it's at
that's
100
why we
games
didn't have
now. And
rights to Brad Ebert immediately. So
yeah,
yeah.
and so I believe that Tommy and Dougie should be father-sons anyway. Stewie played 50 games, but he's put in countless hours and days and years in administrative tasks, obviously with a break for his own personal health
Mhm.
issues and battles. But people enter the Hall of Fame in administrative positions. People get life memberships through their tenure as administrators of clubs. So I don't know why, in regards to a father-son eligibility, I understand they probably want to keep it binary. 100 games is a very measurable thing, but I think tenure for this a particular club, and in this regard, this same club that he played 50 games at should count for something. And I
Mhm.
don't know if that would still equate to 100 games and how they would equate that. Um, but I firmly believe that if you're going to put in the work at a club on the field and off the field, then that should all be classified as your tenure with
Mhm.
that football club, and your birth, your children should benefit as a result of that, because we're talking about a they've clearly put in a lot of work, which means A, Stewie, and B, Dougie clearly want Dougie to play at Port Adelaide Football Club.
Mhm.
So whether it got approved or not, we're talking about a kid who we may have it may have been a miracle when we still pick up without the whole NGA process, but most likely not. But we're talking about a kid who's probably requesting a trade back to the club at the next earliest convenience. So
Mhm.
that's where I just go, well, if Stewie's administrative tenure counts for something as well as his games played, then Dougie's a father-son anyway, and we're not having this ridiculous conversation or having these ridiculous conversations with people upset about a process that we didn't create and we're only
Mhm.
taking advantage of. It's our turn to.
Yeah. I think the father son thing's a nice way to kind of bring it back down to like kind of there's a lot of cynicism from other fans and how the discussion's been talked about a lot in the last week and a half. But you kind of talked about the work that's gone into it, and Stewie doing a lot of work to discover about their Indigenous history, and of course, it is kind of a window into education about Indigenous issues in this country, and kind of the fractured family history that some Indigenous people have, because they don't have much access to their own history. They have to really discover it through through research, because they're whether it be stolen generation or other factors that have been involved in their history. It's not that easy to find that history. I know there was one tweet that kind of was a little bit kind of misunderstanding of that kind of issue, even though they seem to say that they knew all about it, which I just ignored and didn't reply and say, don't really know
I've
fuck
got
all.
that
And
open right
yeah,
in front of
so
me,
it's just like,
actually. Yeah.
right in front of me. You were a dumb fuck, because you don't understand the issue if that's how you talk about it. But um, I think there's a romanticism to the fact that not to obviously the fractured history thing, but the fact that they've gone back through and done that research, and Stewie is a Port Adelaide guy. He wants his kid to play at Port Adelaide, and obviously, and I assume if Dougie was like, no, I don't want to play there, they wouldn't even be going down this road. But they've gone down this road because Dougie wants, probably wants to play with his brother, and Stewie's they're Port people, and they want to play there. So they've kind of
Hmm.
found a window into it to kind of make him a father. In my head, they've just found a different route to him being a father son. To your point as well, it's not that he's a father son through the rules of the competition, because Stewie's played 104 games total, with 50 of them at North Melbourne and 54 at Port Adelaide. He's still a majority Port Adelaide, and he played in a very, very successful Port Adelaide side. If you go back through the 2004 highlights, like as we did, last year in our Horizon saga Kevin Costner thing that'll eventually finish at some point. But watching the highlights of that 2004 season, the amount of time Stewie Cochrane's popping up throughout that year and playing in really important games and playing a really important role, and obviously just didn't, that was a year that we'd battled a lot of injuries, and he was just a guy that came in and played really good football. Just wasn't quite part of the game day squad when it came to the big day in September. But he's a very, very important part of a very, very good side across a couple of years there. And
Hmm.
um, obviously you mentioned his administrative stuff, and then he has the health issues which delay the entire reason this took so long. Eventually it kind of comes out, it's just basically his health issues made it longer for him to a longer process for him to discover, kind of work out that and get that certificate, because that's basically what it was that there just had to be a confirmation of Aboriginal descent certificate to the AFL for them to tick off on it. And I guess that just took at that time between the health issues and then discovering that complicated family history as far as finding that Indigenous connection and history. And yeah, so to me, there's kind of like this romanticism to it, that the fact that this is a guy that loves Port Adelaide in Stewart, and then his kid, one of them already been playing at Port Adelaide. We were lucky enough to see his first goal right in front of us in gather round, which is wonderful. And now Dougie's got the opportunity to be able to play at Port Adelaide from the start, rather than, as you said, maybe hypothetically request a trade 2 years in or 1 year in. We've got a history of that too. Does the Cochrane family need an MG? But we don't need to do that anymore, because we've got him in the NBA anyway. Like, to me, there's like a real boiling it all down with taking away all the cynicism and stuff. There's a real romanticism for me that a family that clearly does love the club so much and has so much invested and time there, administratively, playing career wise, that they've found a way to make this happen for them. And I'm sure with Stuart's health issues and stuff as well, like keeping the family together is probably got even more. A lot of families want to stay together in the AFL world anyway and stay in the same place. But I think for this even more so, I'm sure for Dougie, he gets to stick around in SA and play with his brother and be able to go home to his parents and Stewie and enjoy that close-knit family life and continue that while he gets to take off in his AFL career in Port Adelaide colours. I'm sure that was all quite important to them. So I think that's kind of gotten lost. There's a lot of cynicism about the process, and it's kind of got lost that the actual story itself is quite a nice one, I think. And, there's a bias, of course, for me, but I think it's quite a nice story as well, the way it's all worked out for the family.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And a lot on many of these issues, when it comes to professional sport, the human element to it all can easily be left at the door in a lot of people's arguments. It's all quick to vitriol and knee-jerk reactions. So I agree with the point you made. Yeah, the underlying story and sentiment of it is quite a lovely one. And it's one that I know that Port Adelaide people will be proud of it, absolutely. And yeah, we don't have to give a fuck about what however anyone else wants to take it, suit yourself. But yeah, having this lineage associated with the club is what makes our club beautiful, and it is what makes football clubs beautiful. It's something that everyone actually likes. They obviously like it best when it suits them. They like it best when it suits them. But if Aussie footy fans didn't like, father-son stories and whatnot, then it wouldn't be around. But it's one obscure romantic element of the great game of Australian rules football that we love, and it's why it's still here. Um, in this regard, it's murky from the classification because he's an NGA product now, but we're really talking about a father-son prospect here, in all honesty, and yeah, so completely agree with the points you made.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of branches out to, we can kind of, for a couple of minutes at least, mention that this branches out to broader Port Adelaide kind of careful list management, plan that they've been kind of going over the last couple of years. Obviously, last year's draft, they were very prudent and picked up some really good prospects without being right at the top end of it, and like Barry, Whitlock and Moraes. But then this year, we're more or less out of it. I haven't kept an eye on the draft since I stopped watching about pick 20 tonight, but we've traded out of our pick 46, which was our first pick anyway of this year's draft to get. So we traded our first pick this year for Gold Coast's third round pick next year, which is basically just a loading up on draft pick stock for being able to match bids for Dougie Cochrane, obviously. And there's a very careful, basically, they've just acknowledged that they're just not going to be involved in this year's draft. Really, we did take a lot of players in the mid-year draft though as well that we've given some.
We
We're
did.
giving
Great
some,
point,
yeah.
Dave.
um, so and
Michelangelo Rucci.
have I missed something that you listen to
Oh,
them a
he's
lot more.
been waxing. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
give
Yeah.
us the
I'm a
tea. Give us the
fucking nuff.
tea.
I'm a nuffy. Well, as a credit to him trying to remain unbiased and impartial, been waxing lyrical about how the NGA system is broken, even though I think they've amended it now. Like Dougie Cochran, I think they're like, this is the last time this is happening, kind of thing. As far as I understood their press release, going back a month or so ago,
Mhm.
in relation to this, but obviously he's been waxing lyrical about it. Basically saying it should be for the people who otherwise weren't going to play Australian rules football and bringing them into the Australian football system,
Mhm.
where Dougie Cochran is a third generation footballer. Father and grandfather played for Central District.
Yeah.
Father obviously played for Port Adelaide. So been waxing lyrical about that, but also just been waxing lyrical, even though you've had Jason Cripps, Jeff Parker, coaches, the broader AFL landscape, Cal Toomey and whatnot, mentioning in regards to Port Adelaide, like they're a young squad. They've got very young under 20 portion of their
Mhm.
list. And this year's draft is compromised, but he's been waxing lyrical about how, it's fraught with danger skipping a draft and missing out on a draft. Just ask Adelaide, just ask Carlton and stuff like that, where the circumstances, in my opinion, are wildly different to those examples. And he's just been hanging on it. And
Yeah,
no matter how many
Adelaide and
people tell
Carlton
him,
just took the wrong players.
yeah,
Like I saw a tweet today that Carlton were like, yeah, we could have had Bergman, we could have had SDK. Like they kind of talked about the
yeah,
players they took instead. Like, and Adelaide took.
I think it was more that they were penalised and to miss drafts. Like Carlton, obviously,
Oh,
back in the early 2000s, they were penalised in way of draft picks
that's
being taken
comparing
away.
apples with fucking
Yeah,
M1
and
Abrams
how
mates.
missing,
It's not the
yeah,
same
how
fucking
missing
thing.
those drafts had a flow-on effect. I agree. Yeah, but yeah, a totally different situation. This is a calculated move based on the fact that while we're missing out this year, as you just mentioned, last year's national draft netted us three very highly touted draft picks in Berry, Moraes, and Whitlock, let alone the rest that we collected. And then, like you said as well, we picked up an 18-year-old, a 21-year-old, and a 23-year-old in the mid-season draft. So again, the I don't know what the antonym is discomparison or misrepresentation of the Carlton and Adelaide thing is that's not decisions that they made and there wasn't a mid-season draft around back in that
Yeah.
period. We've added a lot of young talent to our list and we've had young talent on our list for a few years now, let alone the most recent draft crop. Um, and what we've got on the horizon is all in our basket. It's up to us to facilitate those players to come in, obviously next year and the year after. But just, yeah, not appealing to reason. And you know me, I hate it when people don't or can't appeal to reason. And this one's fairly cut and dry, in my opinion. And no matter how many people call in and text in about the fact that, like, this draft is compromised, it's not really worthy of a club that doesn't have any academy father son ties.
Mm.
It's a bit of like I won't say safe move, but it's a lot safer than missing out on other drafts, particularly last draft, a bunch of missing out on that one and how it's touted to end up for the players picked in that draft. But yeah, considering where the club has positioned themselves and who we've got in the next couple of years to come in and who we've already got on the list,
Hmm.
um, yeah, just a ridiculous
I think
train
it's
of
showing
conversation to
it's just
continue with.
and it's surprising to me for someone that I feel like does think about things fairly well is like to try to equate clubs being penalized and so they're missing out on drafts that they're not planning to. So there's a big difference between Port Adelaide have been had a very careful build. They've taken shots at getting players, and Jason Horne-Francis just falls in your lap essentially. That's the number one pick
Mm.
that we've never had rights to technically, and basically get him as the number one pick still because he's a year out of his draft. So you're getting a full career of Horne-Francis. Dougie Cochran, again, we don't have to bottom out and actually be the number one pick to get him now. So, and he's touted as a possible, at this point, the number one pick for next year. A lot of things can change in the draft year, but yeah. And then it even branches out to the fact that the likes of Louis Salopek, who's been really is getting a lot of plaudits for his career at youth level, and he's obviously father-son tied. Which, by the way, I can't remember where I read it or heard it somewhere, but I think Stephen Salopek is on record as saying one of his proudest parts of his career is that he reached the 100-game mark and was able to make his kids father-son eligible for Port Adelaide. So that's that's a cool thing as well.
I love that.
I don't know where I've read. I need to find it. I was quickly looking for it before I couldn't find it. But I swear it's on record somewhere that he kind of has said that's one of the big things that he's proud of his career is that he reached the 100-game mark as kind of that record met for himself for his career. But then he also knows how important that is for any future father sons, and whether at that point he wouldn't have known if his kids were going to grow up and play footy. But so lo and behold, Louis Salopek is blowing up the youth scouting ratings with just incredible. I haven't seen too much of it myself, obviously, but you just hear the whispers from the people that know what they're talking about, and they say Salopek is really turning some heads at that level. So he's tied to us. Tavita Roden is in a unique position. David Roden's kid, who's both father-son eligible for us, but is also in the Essendon NGA Academy. So we might that could go against us. But we've got there's a few big prospects ahead for us that are tied to us. So there's a very, very calculated plan by Port Adelaide, knowing that, obviously, which is why they put forward their strong opposition to too many changes too quickly by the AFL in that space. But that's such a big difference to clubs doing the wrong thing and being punished for it in the middle of Carlton and Adelaide just weren't in that zone of working things out carefully, considerately for 5 years previous down the track. They weren't planning for the AFL to come down on them. So that's just, like I said, it's comparing apples with a fucking tank. It's just not even the same ballpark at all. It just doesn't make any sense to make that comparison. I know you're trying to say that, you should just be involved in every draft, but you in this day and age, and to yours and my point that we made, we have been involved in drafts this year. The mid-season draft, we took 3 players. So, and players that we have, there's a little bit of, who knows how they'll turn out, but they're young enough that they could develop into very, very handy AFL players. So we kind of have been involved in the draft this year, picked up some decent prospects. So to Ruchi's point about missing out on the draft, we haven't. We've picked up guys that could have been could have been in a draft this year. So it doesn't even make any sense at all. And I think the way that we're calculating our way through this list management period, it's a very difficult period with not being involved at the top end of a draft, but we've found ways to make sure that we've got some highly, highly touted prospects coming in the next couple of years.
Well, and we've always found ways of getting in positions to take decent talent. Again, it was a bit similar to the lead up to last year's draft, off the back end of Dan Houston trade and whatnot, all the knee jerking from our own supporter base in particular, which it was very disappointing, and then kind of turning on the list management side of things, which have served us fantastically well for an interstate team. They've suited us fantastically well for a long, long period of time, and have got plenty of credits in the bank as far as I'm concerned. And this is no different. We've chatted about it after the last draft, and then in one of our first episodes together coming into season 2024, just speaking about the moves in that off-season, pre-season leading up to 2024, and just the trust that I and yourself have in the list management group, and they've afforded that upon themselves through the work they've done over a long period of time. And while it's very different, but we're in a very different landscape to what we were 10 years ago in regards to the draft, mid-season draft, etc., etc. So, yeah, missing out in a draft is one thing, but I think when you take all things into consideration, a lot of it makes sense. And perhaps Rooch is on a radio drive show. Um, Perhaps it's a little old man yells at cloud, and but you would think someone that well researched, considering his profession,
Mm.
history, yeah, perhaps it's just for a bit of reaction, but it does. It seems to be waxing lyrical in a pretty genuine sense.
Mm.
Just yeah, time will tell, obviously, but I'm nowhere near as concerned as what he seems to be. I'm quite hopeful and excited, to be honest.
Yeah, same. And I mean, even outside of that, like the one that I keep thinking of was like Corey Durden's come in as a relative youngster as well. So we've like picked up some youth profile guys outside of the mid-season draft. Like there's so many things that have happened in our last 18 months and then they're going to happen in the next 18 months that are all youth focused and very highly touted prospects kind of stuff. So I'm like, I just have no problem with how we're going in that space. I think it's a lot's going to come down to the Butters' decision next year, which is a topic for another day. But outside of that, like, and I think we're setting ourselves up to be okay regardless of what happens there. Obviously, if we end up having to trade him after matching, because we're going to match whatever bid happens, so that I'm already just working towards that. Matching whatever deals. So we're going to end up with a decent draft hand out of that, and then we're already setting ourselves up to get prospects in either way. Butters stays, we're
Hmm.
getting Dougie Cochran. Butters goes, we're getting Dougie Cochran, and then we're going to have better draft picks. So it's just like we're setting ourselves up to kind of cushion ourselves through a potential harsh one on us fans to lose a player of Butters' caliber, but we're setting ourselves up for the future regardless, and I think that's very kind of wise, level-headed list management that's kind of just staying the course and not trying to overreact to too many things. And we've
Yeah.
taken the opportunities that have come to us in the last few years with the likes of Horn Francis, because that did, we needed to make, but we still did. I think we did a fairly good job of managing that deal out, and not a player of Jason Horn Francis caliber could have been cost a lot more. So we've done
Hmm.
okay over the journey, I think. I'm really excited for it. I think, the core of it for me that I wanted to make the point of, which I think we've done well, is that outside of all the cynicism, I think there's a romanticism to it for me. And there was already a romanticism this year with Tom Cochrane playing for us, and we're kind of getting to enjoy that. And then the fact that we could have a pair of brothers playing for us again is kind of cool, because that was a cornerstone of our success in previous years. So it'd be nice to have that again. That would be a really, really nice little aspect of the side, potentially from 2027 onwards.
You messaged me the other day and saying that, and we'll get to be the old men, you know, relishing the fact that we saw your dad play, and
Yeah.
and then getting to see their sons play football for the club that we love and they love clearly. Just to uh, You're probably going to move on, but just to round out that topic as a whole, and coming back to the NGA and what the NGA is meant for, is our other highly touted young prospect in Zemez Pilot,
Yes, of course.
who, by all accounts, is just shooting the lights out at an under 16s level. I think he might be going into bottom age under 18s next year. Um, but this is a kid who has also played rep basketball, as far as I'm aware, and does fit the bill of attracting players to Australian rules who, without that pathway, may not or would not have been able to enter the fray in regards to professional Australian rules football. So the fact that, yeah, while all of this Indigenous NGA palaver is going on in regards to Dougie Cochran, we've actually got a real quote unquote genuine NGA prospect who, if he continues on the trajectory that he is already on, he's kind of dominating at under 16s level. There's a lot of people very excited about him, including Kautumi,
Mhm.
has spoken about him recently. That's another one to be very excited about. I imagine he's in the same draft year as your Louis Salapex and your
Yeah,
Tavita
20
Rodens as well.
2027 prospect. So
So, not sure how we'll be as a club by then, but I mean, that draft could be a worldie.
well, that's the thing is like
If they all continue, sorry, if they all continue, because yeah, as youth prospects, things can change.
mhm.
We all know that. There's been plenty of examples of that, but yeah, if things progress in the way that we're hoping they do, that could be a worldie of a draft crop that year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we all know as Moneyball fans that Billy Bean was a 5-tool player and he didn't do well. So, but
Yes,
I think
yes, great
yeah.
call.
But yeah, these guys are like a lot of the time when these guys come up that good, that there's a fairly, particularly in modern AFL, there's a fairly good record of like those number one picks in the last few years kind of panning out okay. Like there's sometimes yeah, Pilot. Yeah, Zemeir's Pilot is. Yeah, I completely blanked on him when we were talking about it earlier. But yeah, he is an exciting one. Just the way that people talk about, it. And this is similar to the way people are talking about the likes of Salapak and Co as well. So there is a lot to be excited about, Port Adelaide fans, as far as the potential prospects going forward, regardless of what happens with Butters or whatever else. We're in a very very handy position as far as at least Dougie Cochran next year, and then there's if we get 2 out of 3 of those guys in 2027, you're probably pretty happy. And if you somehow land all 3 of them, then you're doing the end of Draft Day movie where there's like the Cleveland Browns owner that never takes his sunglasses on stage, just like we had a great day. Yeah,
Yeah, or it's the old scotch and cigar at the press conference table.
yeah.
I smoke when I drink. I smoke when I drink.
Oh fuck! I love Semaphore. Anyway, yeah, no, lots to look forward to. I think we'll if we have that kind of draft day, then we'll be having a draft day party somewhere, I'm sure, for that kind of draft. But that is a few years away. But yeah, lots of exciting stuff to look forward to. So even though this year's draft is just chilling on the couch and watching everyone else pick, yeah, don't worry. There's going to be plenty of draft action for Port Adelaide going forward. Let's talk about the fixture. I just want to not too much to talk about on it, but it is an exciting one going forward. We've obviously, I think it has been pretty well noted based on, whatever metrics people utilize to work out strength of schedule, because it's obviously based on, we don't know, North Melbourne could suddenly be good next year. And then you talk about playing North Melbourne twice suddenly isn't as easy as it is now. But based on what we know now, we've got the second easiest fixture of next year, which is a nice change from what we've had to deal with over the past few years. So I'll fucking take it.
Yeah.
We've got a run. We've obviously got St Kilda in Gather Round, which is going to be a wonderful night. Jamie and I are both going to take the Monday off and enjoy that responsibly.
In all its glory.
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's a run of like 6 or 7 night games in a row. Obviously, not all at home, but from about round 7 through I think almost through our bye, actually through after our bye, we've got like just night games for about 7 or 8 weeks. So it's an interesting schedule, but one that I'm actually quite excited for. For a bottom side, obviously we're not getting too many Friday night games or anything like that. Though we do get 3 Fridays in a row, 2 of them away. Well, so we have away showdown on Friday in round 8. We have home against Western Bulldogs in round 9 on Friday night, and then we're away in Darwin against the Gold Coast Suns for Friday in round 10. So we get 3 Friday night matches on TV at least. Just one of them actually our home game for ticketed supporters. I think for a side that didn't do too well this year, and next year is a new coach and all that stuff, I'm kind of pretty pleased with how it played out. Like, I was more pissed off about the fixture we got this year as a team that finished as a preliminary finalist as I am to next year's fixture as a team that finished in the bottom half of the table.
Yeah, and look, let's call a spade a spade. It is a fixture. There will be no labeling it a draw because it is not that at all. It is a ridiculous. It is a ridiculous way to form a minor round of a professional sporting competition. Putting that to one side though, because I could honestly go on. Yeah, I agree with you. In regards to 2025, sure, you finish preliminary finalists, you get a hard draw. And again, I wish we didn't have to categorize things as hard and easy. It should just be a draw. Where would all the commentary be in that though?
Well,
But so preliminary
in
finalists,
the Premier League, when they get like they actually do play home and away, then they look at when the games come, like, oh, you play Arsenal and
yeah,
Chelsea in a 3-week period. That's difficult.
yeah,
Oh
early,
man,
yeah,
the
like shaking off
Premier
the
League,
cobwebs.
the Premier League is fixing it. It's just like, oh my god,
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. I get
yeah,
that. Yeah. And the governing body of any professional sporting comp will always be Big Brother and we'll have it no other way. So
yeah, and I hate them all. Yeah.
that's just yeah, fuck them all. I smoke when I drink. What was I saying? Oh yeah, preliminary finalists. you get a hard draw. That's fair enough. I think the thing that frustrated Port fans more was I think if we felt that the teams around us got a more favourable draw
Hmm.
than what we did, and it's just like, well, aren't we all supposed to be singing off the same hymn sheet? You know, you finish top-ish, we finish top-ish, we all get a difficult draw. But yeah, it didn't seem to work out that way. So, and
Hmm.
then coming into this year, whether you like it or not, we finished 13th. So, and they made an adjustment to how they were going to work out the double up games, which I think benefited us as well in that regard.
Yeah, I
We
like the
were
way they've
one
done that.
spot off of the, well, yeah, we were one spot off of the mid tiering. Um, we were in the bottom tiering of the um, thirds of the ladder. For those that aren't aware, I think it was previously, and this is again more, ambiguity to the AFL and their fixture, but I think previously it was like you could play up to three people in your ladder bracket the next year, double up. Whereas this year, I think it's you can play up to four, and I think that's how it worked out. And then we played two from the mid-tier bracket in St Kilda and Sydney. Um, so again, that little adjustment benefited us by being in the bottom tier of the ladder bracket. And so while we've got quite favourable double ups, again, knowing what we know now, I agree with you. Teams come and go, they change in fortunes. Hopefully, we're one of those teams that rises in regards to the ladder. I wouldn't say all of the teams around you improve at a rate of knots. So yeah, mitigate the ones that do. Like you mentioned, North Melbourne may finally do something. West Coast could peel themselves off the bottom of the table to the chagrin of everyone hoping for a number one draft pick next year in that side of the country. Um, but yeah, I think it's quite favourable, and as an extension of that, how they've structured up our first month to 6 weeks only franks that quote unquote second easiest
Yeah.
draw in the fixture.
Mhm. It is interesting looking at like we play North Melbourne away, which I think we've done that a few times. I think it was a couple of years ago. I remember us playing North Melbourne away. It has been pointed out by a few North Melbourne fans that can't get over an ex girlfriend, so to speak. That this is the first time North Melbourne are playing Port in Melbourne since Jason Horne-Francis left. So apparently the Boo Birds will be out again at Marvel in their in the maybe what like a third full Marvel at best, I would assume. Like they're kind of begging for
Yeah.
Marvel to be filled for the Jason Horne-Francis return, which is like the only interest they can get apparently. So yeah,
Yeah, of
get
course.
get the fuck over it, North Melbourne. But yeah, obviously our first home game a week after in round two. Against the Essendon Bombers at a Sunday afternoon footy, 2:45 Sunday afternoon against Essendon. And then we return again at Adelaide Oval for West Coast on a noon kickoff on a Sunday. So kind of the kickoff times maybe on a Sunday, but not as bad as like I know Twilight's the one that people hate because of the families in particular. So that's kind of nice. And then we have two games at the MCG next year as well, which is obviously always a point of chagrin for fans when you're interstate fans in particular, and particularly us last year. We had our first game, our only game at the MCG in round one, and then didn't see the MCG again. Obviously, with the fact we didn't make finals,
Hmm.
so we have the MCG in round
Happy to
four.
forget that game too.
Yeah, oh,
It
yeah, no,
must
I
be
have
said.
no idea what happened in that one. I drank through it, and yeah,
I still think about the
smoke when
food
I
I cooked
drink.
that night. Shout out to Aaron.
That's right. Yeah, you guys were
Great
up for
cooking class. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Asian feast.
yeah.
Fucking delicious.
Yeah, to quote the knight at the end of the Last Crusade, you chose wisely with that decision to go to a cooking class. Um, yeah, so yeah, we do have
Great
Collingwood at
movie.
the M. So yeah, round four at the MCG against Richmond, then round 15 against Collingwood in a Saturday night match at the MCG. Sucks that we haven't had. Well, I think we've had Collingwood in Port Adelaide in Adelaide once in the last fucking 7 or 8 years. It feels like, but yeah, I
Yeah, I
mean,
think it was three times over the last 10, but one in the last seven, 6 or 7.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
2016 is the last time I can remember. Oh, we had
We were,
them a couple of years ago. The 1 point game, wasn't it? That was a great
yeah.
game of football.
And then we were meant to have them in 2021 for Boak's 300th, but we had the fucking was that I can't remember if that was Pizzagate or if that was the fucking uh no, that was the winery up in fucking Tenerife Wines or something. We had a shutdown of SA for COVID in 2021, that like week or so, and like so Port had to. They shifted quickly from a home game to a game at Marvel against Collingwood. So that was meant to. So looking back, I guess that one is on the record as an away game, but we were meant to have that as our home game. So I guess that is there. But I mean, 2 games at the MCG spread out across the year is a nice little. I think that's what you want as an aside from Adelaide. If you can play twice at the MCG, maybe once in the first few weeks and then once later down the track, like you can't. Like I mean, it would be nice to play more there, or at least split it with Marvel, but I'm not going to be beggars can't be choosers. I'm going to take the 2 games that are spread out the way they are, and Richmond will be an interesting test, depending on what prospects they have fit and whatnot, because they could be a team that could be plucky if imperfect, and then Collingwood obviously will be a tough but Collingwood, who knows if they fall off their cliff next year, like with the kind of the list profile they've got as well. So there's some interesting matchups there, and of course our home showdown is in round 16, so it's a big couple of weeks there as well. The home showdown being the first of the floating fixtures, so we won't know what time that is, but we could be pretty rest assured that they will hopefully give us like a Saturday night or something like that for that one, or at least late afternoon on a Saturday would be nice for the home showdown. So, but yeah, it's a fixture that provides us an opportunity to get the Josh Carr game plan kind of up and going, and kind of hopefully have a decent season. Regardless of how good or bad some of those teams are that we're doubling up against, you hope that they're easier matchups, but then those other teams would be thinking the same with you as well sometimes. So because we are in that, we did drop down into that tier, so who knows? But it is a fixture that provides us some opportunity. There's some night matches for whether or not you're going to the games. There's some night matches to watch and enjoy at home, or obviously going to them. No Thursday nights this year, which are like next year. Not something that bothered me too much because I have a non-traditional work schedule, so to speak. So a Thursday night didn't bother me any more than a Sunday twilight does. But a lot of people are pretty happy to see no Thursday nights, because I think we had at least a couple this year. We had a couple home ones, but then there was at least 1 or 2 away ones as well. So
no, nothing more to add for me. It's really set up. If things go the way that we hope and we think, and based off of what we know, then the early portion of Josh Carr's tenure as coach could be quite an upbeat and positive one. A lot of water to go under the bridge, and you got to do the thing, walk the walk. But the club's very happy with it. Richo was obviously in his press conference basically said we got everything that we could have asked for, and nothing really disappointed us. So it is all set up for as fruitful a 2026 as we possibly could. What that means is left to be said or done. But it looks quite good. It's quite favourable for us, the way it all sits right now.
Yeah. And a kind of a side note too, the fixture being released is also at a similar time. We obviously had the announcement from the AFL that we're getting a wildcard round, which got received really, really weirdly by, it was like a NIMBY thing from the wider AFL world. And I'm fascinated by how many people are just like against it, like straight out against it, and have whether I think Anthony Lehman on the radio called it Seppo bullshit. And I was just like, it's funny how they're celebrating the 40 years of the draft tonight as well. And the draft being something that is straight up inspired by, kind of market research of what other leagues were doing in the 80s to try to fix the AFL or the VFL as it was at the time. And the draft is a very American thing. The Premiership Cup wouldn't be a thing if the fucking AFL CEO, whatever it was called at the time in the 50s, hadn't gone to an FA Cup match and been like, oh, that seems like a cool thing to hand over a cup. The AFL has a lot of inspiration from a lot of different areas that has made it the sport that we now look at and go, that's Australian. If you said to an Australian like, oh, we've got to get rid of the Premiership Cup, it's just an English piece of shit. And like you'd have a bunch of Aussies go, no, it's not. So I find the wildcard round discussion fascinating, that people are just like, oh, this is dumb, rewards mediocrity. I've got so many thoughts on it, but I think for us, looking at the fixture, it means that we, even if we have an indifferent year, we could potentially play some, knockout finals, whatever you want to call the wildcard games. To a point that you and I talk about a lot, you in particular really hot on like the fact that it is fixture. And I think even Richo in his email said that this is the wildcard round does kind of address fixture inequity a little bit, and yeah, it doesn't reward mediocrity because if you want to just reward the top team, then just do it fucking Premier League style and reward it at the end of the minor round. If you're going to have finals at all, then it doesn't fucking matter where that level goes to.
Yeah.
I don't understand that argument at all.
No, and we've clearly spoken about it off cam and off mic. But yeah, it just all comes down to a bit of hive mind knee jerking
Mm-hmm.
from the wider AFL public. I think similar to my, and look, there'll be people listening or watching who potentially won't agree with us, and that's fine. You're entitled to position. You're entitled to your own opinions, of course. But I would appeal again, similar to Michelangelo Ricci, just appeal to reason a little bit and just think about what it means, why it is there,
Mm-hmm.
and what it addresses. Like you just said, the fixture is heavily weighted towards clubs in Victoria by sheer fact that there are ten clubs in Victoria. On top of that fact, we do not play everyone twice. Playing everyone once, while is one element of being fair, you're still left without having a return leg in either direction in that case. So not being able to play anyone twice it is not an equitable fixture. So,
Mm-hmm.
and like we said again, teams improve, teams decline. Your fixture based off the year before is probably as best as they could do it, um, without getting it perfect because they don't know how to make it perfect yet, because we can't play everyone twice. So I made a point to some people I know that seven or eight may get to seven or eight over nine and ten because they've played more of the bottom teams that year
Mm-hmm.
in the year. So therefore, the play-in portion of the end of the year is a way to cover all bases. It gives nine and ten a chance to, in their minds, I'm sure, take their rightful place in the final eight. But as well as that, it keeps the season alive for more clubs. This season was somewhat of an outlier in regards to the kind of expiry
Separation.
date of some clubs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is fairly rare in regards to the last 5 to 8 years of a fairly equal competition in equal in way that all the clubs are very close in talent and execution. It's a very even competition in regards to output. Every game is losable, every game is winnable. So again, it keeps the season alive for much longer, which is a benefit to the fans and to the broadcasters and the bigwigs and the moneymakers and whatnot, which again, you can focus on one aspect of it. Yes, it does benefit the broadcasters and it does benefit people who are in the executive positions and, bums on seats, time on screen, but it benefits the fan as well, by and
Mm-hmm.
large. Like, just this sentiment that we're going to get to next year, and if your club is in with a shot of a play-in or a wild card spot, that you're going to be unhappy and like they don't
Yeah.
deserve to do the thing. Like, fuck off. You're only kidding yourself, in my opinion. And at the end of the day, like I said to you, we will end up with one premier, and that premier will probably be the team that deserves to be the premier.
Mm-hmm.
So having some extra competition, and as Ken said in his interview with Jared Waitley after the news broke, it just gives hope to clubs who are on the path to progress up the ladder. It just gives that indicator of progression, in a stretch of years for a club potentially going up the ladder, offering them finals like atmosphere, which we've spoken about, and I think is particularly important for an up and coming side. If you want to focus on the negatives, focus on the negatives. In my opinion, I think there's rational arguments to combat any hive-minded negativity around it. Your sentiments in regards to Seppo bullshit, rewarding mediocrity. At the end of the day, two clubs will still finish their season at the end of that weekend. Like,
Yeah.
and then yeah, two more from the um two more from that top eight will finish the week after, like yeah, and we'll end up with one premier. So at the end of the day, we have a system that doesn't reward mediocrity because we only have one prize, and that's what any club gets judged upon, and that will be no different next year as it wasn't this year.
Mm. It's a funny argument too. There's a lot of layers to it, but the one that I like, the rewarding mediocrity thing, is just something I keep going because people keep talking about it. I'm like, again, just give the premiership to the top team at the end of the minor round if that's how you feel about it. Because as soon as you enter a final series, you're throwing that argument out the window and saying you need to part of the real, and this is why the AFL and why leagues around the world set themselves up this way. And to be honest, the reason they do it this way, firstly, is for it's more money and for broadcasters, stadiums, whatever it may be. A final series generates interest, and particularly in modern sports, it is a business. There is a business aspect to it. Final series is a part of making sure that bottom line works for the competition. But beyond that, yeah, once you enter a final series, they're actually saying the final test for your credentials to be rewarded as the best team in this competition is to win this part of the competition, and whether or not that you throw that extra, because the top four are still going to get that week off, and then they're still going to have the carrot of winning that first qualifying final and get straight through to a prelim. So it doesn't affect the top four at all. It gives the fifth and sixth an extra carrot to try to finish there, because then you don't have to play that first week. And then, if those teams that are down in those 7th through 10th spots, I've seen a few people go, oh man, if a team, I think Dan does footy. Like, I love a lot of what his content does, but like I disagreed with him fundamentally here. He said, oh, just wait until a team from 9th, wins the premiership. I'm like, that will, ironically,
no one will be negative about that.
And to your point, that will prove the concept. That will say this works. Like, and so the concept is either going to be proven or it's just not going to matter because no one's going to win from there. And the high likelihood is no one's going to win from there. We've seen the Western Bulldogs season is the only one we've seen someone win from that low. You had Brisbane from 5th last year, but Brisbane were a better team and Brisbane were pretty fucking mediocre for half a year and then got themselves to 5th and then win. And then the Bulldogs winning from 7th. No one's talking about rewarding mediocrity there. People are complaining about the umpiring from that grand final still. That's a separate discussion, but no one's talking about that they were mediocrity rewarded because they're like, oh, that was a great run. It was cool to see, the Western Bulldogs, Bob Murphy, the tragedy of him not playing, but he was still there and all that stuff. Like, it's just, no one's talking about that now. And the ultimate, and I have to bring this up because it's the Crows and it's a way to make it have a little bit of snarkiness about the Crows. The Crows finished in 5th in 1998 and lost their first final. They still won a premiership. No one's talking about rewarding the mediocrity of them.
Don't hear them complaining.
I don't hear one fucking complaint.
Don't hear them complaining
about the Crows finishing 5th, losing their first final, which obviously under the final system that soon changed after. If you finish in 5th and lose your first final, you're out. But the Crows were given a second chance and won the premiership. So I don't know, like all
lucky
these
losers.
Yeah, all these rewarding mediocrity things just don't make any sense when you actually look back across the history of the league. And obviously the finals places have increased as the league has gotten bigger. Obviously we've been a top 8 for a long time now. We have gone to 18 teams. So, there is more teams missing finals than not. And whether or not you want to compare to leagues around the world, the way leagues around the world make themselves more competitive is when they add more teams, they make sure that the equitable access to finals is that more teams make playoffs than not. Like in hockey, you have eight teams from each conference. There's 16 teams out of 30 odd that are made, or 31 now. Actually, I'm blanking on how many. They always make sure that at least half the league is making finals, if not more. And then wildcard spots have increased in baseball. Football has increased it as well. Like, all these sports do it, and no one fucking bats an eyelid and starts talking about the end of the sport and the game's gone and all that stuff. They just go with it.
End of the world.
Yeah, and fans are invested longer, and teams, and actually in hockey, like Andrea is going to love that I bring this up, and I hate it because Ducks fan that I'm wearing the hat tonight, but. The Kings won the Stanley Cup from 8th back in 2010 or something like that. So teams can do it in different sports. That is a sport that is just a sport that is really built for a team making a run in finals. And I just don't think it will happen in the AFL. But industry, if you look at sports as an industry around the world, the industry standard is to have a final series that is open to at least half your league, if not more. And we've opened with the wild card now, we're opening it up to a bit over half. But once it gets to 20 teams, as the AFL is clearly looking to go to in the next 10, 15 years, it'll still just be half the league that is in finals. And that'll be it. And
Hmm.
maybe at that point they'll open it up even more, and people are going to start talking about the game being gone again. But guess what? It won't fucking matter once you've dealt with it for a few years. You'll just accept it, and it'll be the new reality.
Mm.
And the AFL is doing great money, like doing. The AFL is in. People keep talking about the AFL like, oh, the game's gone. It's not what it used to be. It's like the AFL is doing pretty okay considering the COVID stuff and everything that happened. They're going fine. So I think they know what. I have a lot of issues with different aspects of the AFL and how they handle some social issues, whether it be the ranking stuff, some of the ways they govern. But as far as the actual business of the AFL and how they're doing, as far as putting bums on seats and all that stuff, like the product is getting people in seats, getting people talking about it. So what they're doing on that front is working, and I think this is going to be something that people look back on and just go, well, I don't know what I was complaining about because it doesn't fucking matter. And for the teams that get into those spots, we're going to get, like, if we finish ninth next year, I'm going to love going down to that fucking, well, I guess I won't be going because it'll be an away game, but I'll love setting myself up
Yeah.
with beers to watch it, and maybe I will go. I don't know.
Well, and I remember all the trepidation about gather round, and that
Yeah.
also seems like a distant memory. So yeah, but you mentioned 20 teams. When it gets to 20 teams, the league should just split it into two divisions. I'll die on that hill. I'm more than happy to expand on that for anyone who wants to ask, but I won't get into it now.
That isn't an
But
episode
yeah, I
something
agree.
we've talked about.
It is. It is. Yeah, it may be a Patreon
That could have
chat though.
been. Hmm.
But uh, so thank you for our Patreoners.
Yeah.
Again, we said can't say that enough. But um, yeah, the final point I want to make is that that Port Adelaide Gold Coast game is a good example of what we may get more of out of having more teams striving for those final places, ninth and tenth places.
Hmm.
And again, as a fan, what would you prefer? Would you prefer, say this year happen, this type of year, season 2025 happens again, and there is that kind of divide in terms of points on the ladder. Do you want your team to just be going through the motions for the last 6 weeks of the season? Or do you want them putting their heads down and getting into gear, squeezing a win out of nowhere like Port Adelaide did in that Gold Coast, and how good we felt? Obviously, there was the extra romantic element to it all, but it was just a sheer fact of your team, no matter, it doesn't matter where you're placed on the ladder, who you were playing against in that case, Gold Coast, who were striving for finals, striving for top four at that point in time,
Hmm.
and just gutting out a victory. Do you want your team to play dead rubbers and shit games where they're going through the motions and you're testing out young guys or depth players who are playing for a 1 year extension on their contracts? Or do you want your teams actually putting in the hard yards and actually playing for something and playing with a bit more heart? I know what I would prefer. So that's what I would put to everyone who is still, on the other side of the fence to us.
Yeah. Absolutely, it provides a carrot, and that's like the Boke game, the Boke Bowl is a great kind of
Bog ball.
um, Boke Bowl. It's the Boke Bowl. That's a great kind of analogy for it because that there was a carrot in that game. It was a non-traditional one. It was just win it for Boke, but there was a carrot for the players to kind of attach themselves to and try to chase. They wanted to win it for Bokey. So if you're trying to win a game in the last couple of weeks because you're trying to scrape 10th and just get, extend your season by a little bit longer and just see what miracles can happen. And depending on, you might look at yourself and be like, geez, we're a decent team, but we had a run of bad injuries and we struggled for a period of the season, but we're back fit and we feel like, and we've had a couple of good results against teams in the top 8 in the last couple of weeks. And if we can just scrape 10th, who knows what can happen? From then it's just win 5 games. So that'll be the kind of the mantra of some teams, like because there's different. Sydney this year,
Absolutely, as it should be.
Sydney this year once they got Golden back, there was a little period where they're like, oh, we're playing decent footy. Then they kind of just but that's a team that if they'd been fit when September came around and they finished ninth, that's a team that Sydney. I mean, they had issues with the coaching changeover and all that. But objectively, you could sit there and go, look, Sydney are a decent team. Like maybe they would have
Hmm.
challenged a few. The Bulldogs again, really odd year for them, but if they'd been in there, any team playing them in the wild card wouldn't have been happy to be playing the Bulldogs, depending on how fit they were. So yeah, you just
Absolutely.
a carrot's going to be quite a nice little thing to add to the league, and ultimately, a team in the top four is more likely than not to win the premiership at the end of the day anyway. So it's not going to affect the overall kind of mantra of how the league runs. It's just going to add a little bit more carrots to those bottom half teams, and it will help fix a little bit of that, that kind of that whole tanking idea as well. Like it's just like there's going to be a push and pull
Yep.
for teams in that little between 11th and maybe 14th or whatever the gap ends up being. That they're kind of like, oh, do we like where do we want to be right now? Like if we think we're a decent team, let's try to chase that 10th spot. So it's going to be an interesting one, but I know that you and I are pretty kind of in lockstep on being quite excited for it. A nice little advancement and progress of the league, which is a good thing, and will be a good thing going forward. And I think in 5 years, no one's going to fucking care. Um,
No.
yeah, it's so funny watching the meltdown from people. Uh, Historic financial milestone. I love this, and again, it's this comes from for those members of would have seen this, or if you check your emails. But obviously, we get the CEO emails periodically, and we got an update. Obviously, there's some stuff about wildcard round and a few other things, but I think it's a really important one to kind of touch on as we get closer to closing out this episode. For a club that has often been, whether it be internally, like us as fans have been aware of it, the debt issues at times, and of course it's been a stick that opposition fans like to beat us with at times, even though every fucking club in the AFL is dealing with some level of debt and handouts at times. But anyway, we have paid off the final $1 million of historical debt to the club, which ended up at a peak of 12.5 million post-COVID. So we've essentially cleared a debt of 12.5 million in 4.5, 5 years from that post-COVID kind of time, and a lot of clubs ended up in that position. And it's also really important at a time that the club has been heavily invested in kind of revitalizing Alberton, both for the kind of spectator side as well as the side for the players as well, and just anyone that's been to Alberton 5-10 years ago and sees it now, it's a completely different venue. Whilst also the soul of it remains the same, so much has changed, and it's been really, really important. And so I think when you kind of take that into account and then see that we're still clearing debt, and it means that we've just built such a strong financial position, whether it be through sponsors, and we've had a sponsorship issue this year as well with the whole GFG thing going tits up. So we've dealt with that, and we've still cleared this debt at the end of this year. I think it's a really, really important milestone to acknowledge. And from my point of view, whilst I understand a lot of the criticism that goes to the club and on some of the football management side of things, I think sometimes people that talk about the wheels falling off Port Adelaide as a whole they don't really acknowledge this side of it, of how much better this is. I'm not going to get into like, the club almost folded or whatever. I won't get into that, but I just think from where the club was in the late 2000s into 2011, 12, struggling to get the jerseys with like fucking my ATM or whatever on there. Like this, the sponsorship position was pretty rough. To get here and have a strong sponsorship base, refurbished Alberton, continuing to refurbish it, and there's more plans afoot to do even more there, and then to clear this debt, I think it's just such a monumental milestone and something to be proud of as at the governance level of the club, to be able to kind of be in this position and be going from strength to strength.
Totally agree. It's quite a momentous time in our club's history. At certain times, particularly in our AFL era, a day such as the 31st of October when um, we paid off the final 1 million,
Mm,
a day like that would, in the minds of a lot, be outlandish to think that that day would come.
mm,
For a lot of people would have thought that uh, Port Adelaide, whether fans or not, would probably remain on quote unquote the teat for forever or for longer. And it's a huge credit to the organisation. It probably should be spoken about a lot more than it is. But obviously, it only regards our own kind of patch of the world. So um, uh, it's not getting probably the plaudits that it deserves, but it's been a monumental effort considering the peak debt off the back end of COVID, and how that affected everything. Because we were already making some good progress, some okay
Mhm.
progress before COVID, and then COVID just threw a huge spanner in the works. That goes without saying. But the way that we've obviously aligned, obviously we're not afforded the P&L or anything like that, but as someone who's fiscally responsible, as I like to think I am, yeah, it's a huge effort. And now it means opportunity. Do we focus on strengthening our football program even more? Do we increase our staff base to provide better service to fans, members, and otherwise? There's all these kind of questions that we can now ask that we weren't in a position to while paying off this debt. And with more additions to the Alberton Oval Sporting Precinct to come on the horizon, continued AFLW, hopefully success. It's just everything around the club is moving in the right direction, in the direction that you would hope it would be moving in as proud Port Adelaide people. So I'm cock a hoop about this, and it finally gives opposition fans, particular opposition fans that are over one swampy side of Port Road, nothing to hang shit on us about, because currently they're finally getting a home ground of their own, and guess how they're doing that by and large? Handouts. So, um, with Port Adelaide being debt free, and as a result of their handouts, we get equally matched handouts for
Yeah.
competition ACCC type areas. We just get it because they're getting it, and I love that.
Yeah.
We can invest that money into whatever we want to. But yeah, it gives people like that nothing to go off of. It's something to be very proud of in a Port Adelaide sense. A team and a club, sorry, that has had to fight tooth and nail to get into this position at certain stages. When you want to talk about shitty Amy Stadium rental agreements and how it pales in comparison to
Mhm.
a certain other club on the Swampy side of Port Road. Inequities in the fixture, which you alluded to a little bit. Every club gets an AFL handout each year, and that's based on inequities in fixture and broadcast and stuff like that. And typically we're in the kind of mid to higher mid section of those handouts. But again, every club gets them.
Mhm.
Every club's fans don't like to focus on or admit that, but they do. So yeah, like I said, I'm cock a hoop. This is a really momentous time in our club's history, and you can only hope that it propels us forward even further
Yeah,
now that we
yeah.
have the freedom to do a bit more.
Yeah, yeah. No, it is fun seeing that you kind of like the further time goes on, the more yeah, some opposition fans, particularly from a certain club in our state, just you don't hear the hand. I mean, the handouts thing will always happen from some, but when I saw one of our, as you could say, rival podcast did a little snarky video about the lightning bolts of our branding for the port store looking similar to like an SS symbol or something like that from uh, World War II. And I thought that was interesting because I was just like, well, you as a club have a very, very fine history of defending camps, which is a lot more pertinent to World War II history as well. But anyway.
Yeah. That kind of gives off the Prime Minister wearing a Joy Division shirt criticism type areas.
Exactly,
Like
isn't
it's
it?
a long bow to draw.
Yeah, but that's when you know that they're grasping at short straws, and we're doing okay here. You're doing okay, kid. And kind of like, and as a side to the debt and just the Alberton in general, thought it was an interesting thing to note in that same email about the precinct at Alberton reopening and back to kind of what we know. Um, I wonder what happened in between in that period. If this was like, because when it closed, it was just like, oh no, we're not doing it anymore, and then they've back open. So I wonder if that came from some strong member feedback, which again is ultimately a good thing, because I don't think that was a
And it's why you pay your money
yeah,
as a member.
exactly. And I don't think that was a popular decision at all. I didn't like it. I was quite critical at the time, and I thought it took away from something that was a very, very good thing that we did at the Alberton development with the precinct, and maybe it's just some. And it says that there's new management and a fresh menu coming soon. So whether they kind of there was some introspection in that time, who knows? We don't. We're not we don't have any internal sources or anything like that. We can only go on speculation. So whatever I'm saying is speculation. But I just have reading the tea leaves. I go, look, that probably wasn't popularly received. A lot of people had continued to talk about it in the interim, and just going there and seeing like all the setup downstairs and stuff, it just didn't seem right. And I imagine there was some probably pretty strong feedback, and they decided to kind of try, what this new management thing is. I don't know, but I'm excited that I can go down and I think it's Tuesday through Sunday, so just closed on Mondays. The precinct like restaurant upstairs there, so you've got 6 days a week. You can go there and have lunch and enjoy the views of Alberton Oval, which is one of the I love that venue. Love going there on a quiet day. Yeah. I mean,
totally agree.
We've enjoyed it in post match areas and stuff like that, but I've often enjoyed just when I pop down there and whether it be trainings on it, there's nothing on, I just go out there and have a quiet beer and overlook Ebert's country and enjoy the kind of just the develop, like just enjoy the ground that we have and the changes and the positive changes that have been. So you kind of take that, you see that historical debt cleared, you see the precinct opening again. It suddenly feel like, because there was a period in the middle of the year when the precinct closed and we were shit as a football team. It was like, what the fuck is happening? Like, why is everything closing? Like, and then suddenly, like a few months later, it's like the debt's gone. I mean, that historical debt's gone. The precinct's open again. Dougie Cochrane's coming. Like, it's just like, oh God, like everything's coming up.
It's all coming up. Yeah, exactly. Took the words right out of my mouth. But yeah, maybe the debt reduction allows them to do a bit similar to what I was saying before. Maybe it allows them to reopen the precinct and kind of absorbs more of the costs that being open for those extended periods of time. Because it would have been some sort of a financial decision broadly when they decided to rein in those days of service.
It was alluded to in that, and when they closed it, I think that it wasn't working right. Yeah. However, it was working. So,
yeah, but glad again, yeah. Companies, professional organizations, they're reviewing and refreshing processes and decisions all the fucking time, and yeah, potentially there would have been a strong member feedback to go along with that decision, and thankfully, more people get to enjoy Alberton from now on, which is always a good thing because we've waxed lyrical in our own regards about how good it is and how good it feels to be there, spend money there, particularly watch AFLW there, and just as an extension of that, they're also renaming the precinct restaurant, and I think members or fans can actually submit ideas.
Oh, I've missed that news.
Something like that.
That's breaking to me.
Unless I've got got that wildly wrong, but I'm pretty sure there is some.
I don't mind. I've never latched onto the precinct very much. I have to say.
Yeah, like I
don't hate it. I just don't love it either.
Nah. Well, and then when you talk about the Alberton precinct in regards to the club, the ground, the sports ground, the basketball facility, like, it can get a bit confusing. Someone texted into Kimbo and the Rooch because I am on the road for half of my week for work, so I do listen to SEN or SEN ads. It should be, in between listening to ads, I listen to people talking about sport. But someone messaged in and their idea was the prison bar for that restaurant, which I thought was a good play on words.
Into it,
but it'll be interesting.
They've got the big.
It'll be interesting to see what.
Oh, who the fuck's a former pool player that's a photographer? Oh, Daryl Poole, right? Like one of his photos on that north wall of the pylons, and so you could prison bars, so to speak. Yeah. You could have some fun with it, but that's interesting news. I wasn't aware of that, but I'm for it. Like I said, the precinct I've never hated it. I've just been like, it just seems a little bit more like a bunch of ad guys that aren't actually involved at Port Adelaide sitting around a table came up with it, rather than people that were involved at Port Adelaide coming up with that name. Like, you need to have a a brainstorming session of Port Adelaide people to name that facility, and kind of, because there's so much potential for that bar to be even better than it already is. Like, the fucking bones are there. There's just with some new management and maybe a little bit of rebranding, it could just really be even more of a hub than it already is. It's a great place to go and meet, but you could brand it a lot better, I think, and that's probably part of the reason that they've kind of gone through some changes, I think, because they just didn't really brand. They tried to go a little bit, a little bit too high end in the branding of it, where it just needs to be a place for Port Adelaide people to go and, be Port Adelaide people. That's ultimately what we want to go for. So, yeah, really exciting time.
Yeah, I agree.
It's fucking like, just everything's so positive the last couple of weeks. The women.
Oh, it's great. Yeah,
the women
it's
finished
fantastic.
great. Like, the women's season finished great. We don't even fucking care that we didn't make finals, because as we've talked about a bit, like, our fucking Kangaroos are winning it anyway. But no, we won the showdown, and like, everything finished great there. And then, just the news out of the men's side, it's building towards next year nicely. Like, we're not fucking thinking we're winning the premiership next year, but we're going to a new era. And Josh Carr started his time as coach now at training, and training's going. And, apart from Jason Orr Francis going off with a little foot grumble still, which is a little bit concerning, but I'm not too worried at this point. Like, I think he's just got to get it right. So, everything, as I said, everything's coming up Millhouse. Jamie, I'm really, really excited. Do you have anything else you want to touch on? Anything quickly before we wrap up tonight, or happy to kind of tie off a bow on it with just a positive vibe?
Yeah. Look, there's obviously a couple other things, AFL, Port Adelaide type chat that we focus on, but I think we'll leave that for another time. What we've covered off tonight is more than adequate, I believe, and just glad that we've got to express our thoughts and feelings on some of those more topical elements of the news cycle that has happened recently. I hope everyone else has enjoyed it. In regards to footy world, footy fatigue is a thing, so really appreciate everyone sticking around, hearing our thoughts and feelings. Most weeks, as you kind of said the other day, we've been going at it since March, I think it was. So it's a big part of the year, one that we're very happy to do, mind you. And we'll offer some bits and pieces for the rest of the year while having large breaks. I've obviously been drinking my Pirate Life South Coast from a Cricket Australia sweater stubby holder, which I love. Ready for the upcoming Ashes. So that's where most of my focus will lie over the next bit of time. But we'll be back with another episode in the short term, and maybe one or two more before the year runs out. But in regards to tonight, I think we've covered a lot of pressing issues quite well, and good to get back on and chat with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I always love doing this, and from this point on, if it's every week or not, it probably we will get to a point of having a bit of a break over the Christmas break and whatnot, and obviously it'll be kind of needs based from this point on. If we have a massive surprise in the draft over the next day or two, like, maybe we'll be back talk about that next week, but I'm not expecting that at all. So it'll be a bit needs based, and probably when we get back together and talk a little bit more over the next few weeks at any point, there'll be a lot of cricket chat, to be honest, and that's fine. It's the off season, and we get to have a little bit of fun. I'm
happy with that.
Massive appreciation for everyone. Like, whatever bits and pieces come from this point on, it might be a little bit more needs based, and rather than sticking to a weekly schedule. So we do appreciate everyone that stuck around for the year. Looking forward to coming back bigger and better in 2026, because it's going to be a really exciting year, a new era coming forward for the club, and a lot of exciting times. As we've kind of wrapped up on this episode, we've kind of teased forward for 2026, but it's not the end of us for this year, certainly. I just want to make a note that it might be a little bit more needs based, and when the episodes drop, and whether I jump on it on my own at some point, just if any news breaks and it's just me, or voice note Jamie, or if we're together, it'll just be what we can do, and what we can and what the needs are going forward. I think we've both already discussed that we might do a little, in the week leading up to Christmas, we might pop a Christmas hat on and have a beer together, and talk about some shit and have a little Perry Christmas together. But in between that, it'll just be what we can do, needs based. But a lot of stuff to be excited for 2026. We really, really appreciate everyone sticking around for the season and just supporting us. It's really, really humbling that people listen to us be nuffies about Port every week. It's really cool.
Yeah, and shall the Nuffy circle grow ever stronger.
Yes. That's a really, really classy way to finish. So I'll give one more classy finish here.
Con la pera.
Oh, there's dulcet tones. All right, a good night, everyone. Thank you, as always.
Thanks, guys. Catch ya.